Welcome to St. Jolys Museum. This is the inside of St-Pierre-Jolys Museum. The church, it's not a church. It was a school and a nunnery. It was actually started, I think it started around the 1800s. The guy who actually started it, he was wandering around that area in the woods from property to property, trying to find support for building the church or this school. They felt like there wasn't enough education in that area or support for education, and so they actually built this building. It was originally built on swampland. Actually very hard to build there. Lots of bugs, insects, wet soil, soggy soil. Building in swamp is often challenging at the very best of times, but they got a group together from him wandering through the bush there on his own. He gathered people together and gathered some support for this school, and they built this building. And also there's some of the pieces in here are remnants of what used to be a fairly beautiful Catholic church, Roman Catholic church. They didn't have enough government funding to support the rebuild and repair and upkeep of that particular building, and that was before the government had brought in special support for landmarks or historical sites. There was no fund for that, and some of the statues were falling, and the building kind of went into disrepair, and there just wasn't enough funds to get it going. So they actually took some of those pieces. There's a part of a bench, I think, and a few memorable items brought from the church. I believe they even have the front door of the church there, or cathedral. I'm not sure exactly what they would terminology it. The front door was solid wood, about close to 8 feet tall, about 4 feet wide, about 1.5 inches thick solid wood. I would have a hard time believing one person can move it. There was double doors, and it was quite an interesting piece, and it was remarkable that they actually made this museum, and the story behind it, how it got started by the one priest who was trying to help with the community and build up a church. So his hard work actually went quite a long ways. One misconception about building in those days was the access to materials and transporting items or materials to the working site, and not having machinery necessarily to build. So the actual difficulty level is much higher than most of us would perceive nowadays, even though in those days simple travel was difficult. You could go maybe 45 kilometers might take you a day. Weather was often a factor. If it's either rainy in a swamping area, you might actually not be able to transport or move. Your wagons would sink down and the horses would get stuck. They had some, in those days they did have some cranes that were not mechanical. They were operated by pulleys and swivel sections, but they were actually operated manually for moving such things as beams or heavier objects. But no, this was an interesting project they had and a good build. And that's my input on this St-Pierre-Jolys museum.